Strawberries all over the ground.
That's slightly apocalyptic. It's a good foreshadow for how I think this podcast is going to go.
Yeah, I'm excited. Uh, the voice note that you just sent me where you started just by laughing. There's so
Mm.
much information in the like laugh and in people's tones and your tone.
Yeah. I thought about restarting it and I was like, nah, I'm just going to leave the laugh. I'm just going to leave that like 10 seconds of pause and laughter. And yeah.
It's super common, I find, with like when you just checking you can hear me. Don't worry about the background
Yeah.
noise, but
Can
cool.
you hear any background noise on me?
Yeah, but it's fine. We got like audio post stuff that will deal with it. I'm pretty sure.
Deal with the music.
Yeah. Um yeah, just like when you're sending messages back and forth, when you're texting, when you're sending voice notes, there's different amounts of information that you get. I mean, we could dive right into the work we did together, but let me
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me pause it for 1 second. I got feedback from a friend who was like, I love listening to the podcast. Please introduce the person that you're talking to, because otherwise I have no context.
Yep.
Um, so maybe I'll let you do that for yourself because you know yourself better than I do, or I can give it a stab. You're cool.
Yeah, you give it a stab. I'm intrigued to see how you introduce me. I can plug the holes, but yeah.
Perfect. Start.
Great.
Andrew is the first person to be a mentor to me of sorts, a trainer and a coach and a mentor. And we met because I got a job doing door-to-door sales in Auckland. And the first day you took me aside and went, all right, we're going to learn this. And I'd always been quite intellectual in the way that I approach things. Like I wanted to understand the thing, but actually doing it, I didn't care that much. And you just like drilled this methodology into me until I started picking it up and actually doing it and actually doing it in action. So my initial introduction to you was as a sales coach. And now you've gone on to do a plethora of things, and we've stayed in touch over the years, but I haven't kept up with all the bits and pieces. Will you jump in from here and give me a.
Yeah, for sure. I think that actually, I've been thinking about this a lot recently because it's 10 years ago, 10 years ago to the day on Monday. So 10 years ago to the week that I arrived home from hitchhiking through every country in the European Union. And that was the kickstart to my life in less than common pursuits, I guess. Expedition racing, adventure racing, endurance sport as a whole. The day that I got back from Europe was kind of the day that I started training for my first 24-hour obstacle course race. And so I did, yeah, over the last 10 years, I've done 4 24-hour obstacle races. I've, placed top 5 in the world. I've achieved some pretty massive results there. I've done a couple of expedition races, multi-day, hiking, biking, kayaking, rafting with no sleep kind of races. I've done, I ran all of the great walks in 10 days. I've recently cycled all of the great rides in a month, which was the biggest thing I've ever done. And I'm still paying the piper for that one. And that's why, this week's actually, it's so timely that we're doing this and we're talking about positive futures, I guess, for better choice of words, because I am at rock bottom, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted from the 10 years of non-stop expedition racing and endurance sport. I don't have a job. I run my own business now, which doesn't have an income. So there's that. I have recently made a series of bad decisions, which has massively impacted, if not ended, my relationship of 5.5 years. And so much. I'm at rock bottom, and yet I'm so grateful for the skills that I have and the people that I have around me, including that partner and my dad. And I'm excited about there's only one way forward from here, and it's towards a positive future, which is it's so cheesy, and I don't know if that's like too cliche for this or not, but it's that's why there was 10 seconds of laughter in that voice note, because I was just processing, and I was like, nah, this it's too timely. It's weird. So
Hey, man, there's no such thing as too timely or weird or too cliche. Like, I
yeah,
think cliches are cliches for a reason, right? It's
yeah,
like
for sure.
they're so common that people pick up on them even when they're not the case. But when they are, it's like, oh, of course that
Yeah,
happens.
makes sense. Yeah.
Um, Now you look happy. Are you putting on a brave face, or is
Nah.
there like
Um.
something? Yeah.
Yeah. I think the word that I used there was grateful, and this is. I probably missed out the fact that just under a year ago I started Tough Yarns, which was encouraging people to do difficult things and have meaningful conversations. And the reason that I am grateful is because I am super fortunate, and I know that way too few people have these people in their life. And this is kind of this is my ikigai now, is to help people gain these skills. But I'm so fortunate that A, my communication skills are good enough, but also B, the people around me, my dad, my partner, um, for now, like this, the skills that we have to be able to communicate under stress and in tough times, to be able to articulate what we're going through, to be able to get the feedback from those people, and then for those people to be able to provide the space for me as well. And I guess to just dive straight into it, one of the things that I'm really conscious of at the moment is my thought process, just to be a bit realistic, is have we fast tracked the ask for help movement to the point where now people are asking for help, but people don't know how to provide space when someone needs help? And that would be almost more, if I spent years struggling with depression or anxiety or whatever, and everyone was ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. And then I finally asked for help. And if the person that I asked said, sorry, I can't give you help, like that would feel more devastating to me than just probably staying quiet in the first place.
Yeah.
And, and so we can't undo it. That's, we've done such a phenomenal job of, especially in New Zealand and Australia, of encouraging, and especially men, to ask for help. The
Yeah.
next step is, okay, cool. When someone asks for help, how do we provide space?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I was reading about 2 days ago a quote from somebody, and I always misquote people, so I'm not even going to try and remember who it was from. But they were saying that there are a lot of books that are branded as how-to books, when they're really what-to books. Like, we're really good at saying what to do. Oh, please ask for help. But actually the quality of the information or the learning or the coaching, and to bring it back to how you coached me when we first met, you didn't say, hey, go and do this thing. This is what you need to do. You said, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And then you watched me do it over and over and over and over again until I got it right. And I think what you're talking about there is that gap, that
Yeah,
the how to is not what to do. It's repetition of the activity until you learn the behavior, or until you are skilled enough to hold space for somebody like that. Yeah.
for
Um,
sure.
how do you find that when because now you're teaching communication skills, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To like put a broad perspective on it, how is the what to and how to different in your mind?
It's really not. and that's the beautiful thing, right? Like I've taught and am still teaching door-to-door sales, fundraising, and sales to business owners as well now as well. My dream is, well, I mean, my dream is a world in which everybody is able to communicate, in which I'm out of a job. But but my dream for myself, especially now, is to work with teenagers, young adults, to work with prisoners who are reintegrating, to give them the skills that they need to be able to show up to job interviews, to be able to make friends, to be able to, yeah, I mean, to communicate clearly, right? And to give them the confidence. And I think to jump into, you were saying, how I teach door-to-door sales and or business owners how to sell is exactly the same way that I would teach a kid, a 14-year-old kid, how to read body language. You know, I was working with a school last year and it was exactly the same thing. It was a whiteboard and it was, this is it. And we played a game. I don't know if you remember like the effective questioning game where you could just ask yes and no to try and identify who the person was. It's kind of like when you've got the sticker on your head. And we played that game, and then I got these kids to start practicing with each other. It's like, okay, now find out what that person did on the weekend. And it's exactly the same thing. And it's learning the thing and then it's doing the thing. To touch on what you said, you love to intellectualize. Is it a word? Intellectualize what you're doing and to understand it. But I think to truly understand it, you have to be able to do it. That takes practice, and practice means failure. And, we live in a world where failure is not allowed. You're not allowed to fail, especially in public. So it's like, how do we reverse that and go, actually, failure's phenomenal. You cannot learn without failure. That is how you learn. You didn't learn to walk by just standing up and walking. You fell again and again and again. And then eventually you got a couple of steps and everyone gave you a round of applause and you got some positive feedback and you're like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And then eventually you were walking and then running and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the failure thing is funny because it's not, there's like, again, all of this conversation about, fail forward or you need to have some way to, there's all this encouragement about failure, but actually going and doing it, again, it's the common thing is to talk about doing it, not actually go and do it.
Yeah.
I put together a little web app basically for myself a couple of days ago, which was just about collecting rejections.
Yeah. I did see that. Yeah. How's it going?
It's fun. Actually, well, there's two variations of this. There's like a cringe club embarrassment thing that I have going with like a group of 6 friends, which is very small, which is really just like, all right, what embarrassing thing or uncomfortable thing am I gonna try and do today? And that's separate from the rejection therapy kind of tool that I've built for myself, just because I've seen so many people talk about the rejection therapy thing. And I was like, all right, I'm not very good at keeping track of things myself, so I tend to outsource this stuff into like technology and notes and all of that.
Yeah.
But the embarrassment group is so much fun. It's so awkward.
Yeah.
And just like some of I knew it would be interesting to pursue these things that we want to do, but maybe feel uncomfortable about doing. But I didn't realize how much fun it would be to relay back to a small group of people what happened and how you felt about it. And actually, I've got a crazy magic story for you. It reminded me because you were like, this is like so timely that we're talking about this right now. And you're feeling like, at this level in all of these different ways. I fully am believing in magic these days. There's just there's too many weird things. So as part of this cringe club, we're calling it, we've got a list of activities, like inspiration, basically. And one of them is ask somebody else if you can have a bite of their food, like at a cafe or a restaurant or something like that. And I was sitting at a cafe working, and I look over and there's a guy drinking a coffee. And I'm like, I just start chuckling to myself. I'm like, oh man, wouldn't that be funny if I asked if I could have a sip of his coffee?
Yeah.
And then I got really uncomfortable and I was like, I can't do that. But I wanted to share it with the group. So I took a photo, side angle of like this dude who I've never met, probably never going to
Yeah.
see, put it in a group chat with 6 people, 6 friends who are scattered around the world.
Yeah.
One of my friends who's in Portugal, and for context, I'm in Brazil.
Huh.
One of my friends who's in Portugal sends a message and goes, "Oh my God, that's," says his name.
So sorry. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Were you still next to him?
I was sitting right next to him. So I turned to him and I was like, "Excuse me, is your name?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Do you know this girl, this friend of mine?" And he's like, "Yeah." Picks up his phone and she's calling. And we're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like the uncomfortable stuff, not only is it good for yourself, but I think that it, like, when you start doing these things, it opens the door for all of the weird, interesting interactions that you wouldn't otherwise. I mean, you've been doing tough yarns, and I see sometimes that you get rejection after rejection. Like,
Yeah. Sometimes.
sometimes. What's that process like? Like, how do you approach it?
There's so many things that are going through my head right now. Can I answer that in 1 second? I want to match your story with that.
Yes.
There's a reason that I want to match your story, is because I think there's this stigma that talking to strangers is like stranger danger, and the one that really gets me is curiosity killed the cat. And I'm like, but at least the cat lived before it died. In my mind, I'm like, a life without curiosity for me is just so dull. And I heard a great quote, and you probably heard it, but embarrassment is the most underrated emotion. And I'm like, yeah, like I love that. And so I was recently working in Atlanta, and like I know nobody. I know a lot of people on kind of like the Rockies and the West Coast. I know nobody on the East Coast of America. I'm working in Atlanta. I've never been there before. I'm fundraising for the Atlanta Humane Society. They're like the SPCA, kind of, they help animals. This lady walks past with this gorgeous dog, and I'm like, oh, I love your dog. Just, compliment. She's like, oh, we end up in a little bit of a conversation. She's like, whereabouts in New Zealand are you from? And I'm like, finally, someone actually got New Zealand and not Australia. It's like, I live in Queenstown. I was like, have you been? She's like, yeah, I go not frequently, but occasionally. And I was like, what? Why? She's like, I work for Camp America. And I'm like, oh, cool. My cousins worked for Camp America, and I asked if she knew them. She's like, no. And then for some reason, I was like, oh, I also have a friend, Josh Hardle, who works for Camp America. She's like, I know Josh. He was on my camp. And I was like, and I just got these goosebumps. She's like, he just got married. I was like, yeah, I know, as his groomsman. Like, just this. And so I ended up, I took a selfie with her, and I was like, nah, forget that. I just video called Josh, and I was like, and he still thought I was in Phoenix, Arizona. I was doing some work in Arizona before. And so I called Josh at video call, and he answers, which he doesn't often answer. And I'm like, yo, how's it going? He's like, yeah, good. What are you up to? And I was like, hey, Jillian. And I showed Josh, and he's like, Jillian, what are you doing in Phoenix? And I'm like, nah, I'm in Atlanta. And it was just this. And the reason I tell that story is because if you didn't have the confidence, or I don't know if confidence is the right word, but the lack of, or this, if you didn't have the self-awareness to actually just talk to that person next to you and be like, hey, are you this, then like, how do you make friends if you don't have the confidence? Yeah, don't ask someone for a sip of their coffee, or if someone asked me for a sip of my coffee, I'd be like, do you know what? Just for asking? Yeah, go on. Yeah, so that's
It's so
yeah,
funny. But that's the
curiosity.
thing is, it's not about the outcome of the thing. It's about I think about it as opening doors. Like
Yeah.
the statement that you made or the phrase that really caught me is like an honest compliment. Yeah.
Mhm.
Go and give
Yeah.
compliments, but make sure that they come from a place, or when you do it, approach it in this way that is like, hey, I'm giving things out into the world. And when you start doing that, first of all, it is a selfish act in that the joy that you get back is so
100%.
much,
I fully
so
agree.
much greater.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
But I also think that honest compliments are quite rare because people tend to not interact socially, especially with strangers, unless they are trying to solicit something or trying to get something out of an interaction.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
It's free. An honest compliment is free energy because, like you say, if someone responds positively to a compliment, A, you feel fantastic. B, they feel fantastic. And it was at the cost of nothing. Nobody lost anything. The entire world gained something. And you can't, I think there's very few other spaces that you can get that. And especially for just a complete stranger. I find, especially like if I really like someone's tattoo or if they've got like a statement piece, like earrings or crazy hair or, and I'm like, that's cool. Then, you just had this lovely lady walk past me yesterday, flowy pink dress, older lady. And I was like, oh, I love your dress. And she stopped and she was really excited to tell me that she got it from the op shop. And I wasn't in the best headspace. And like it didn't magically make my day, exponentially better, but it was free. So
yeah.
why not?
And what I'm getting is that this is habitual for you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's free. Like it takes no time and energy. And, you know, this is the irony, right? Is you said that too many people now compliment someone or start a conversation with someone because they want an end result. The irony is that as soon as you start to let go of the end result, a whole lot more comes your way anyway. So it's like you can't lose with it, and that's the beauty of it. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I can jump back to your question around tough yarns if you'd like, and kind of how I deal with that rejection. Or
Yeah, that'd be great. The way that my brain thread goes is like we get here and then we get here and then we get
yeah,
here. And I'm glad that you're circling back. This is a skill that I could adopt.
I'm the same as well. Although I like following a line. And if it takes you in a different direction, but you have to be open to that. But you asked that question and I specifically said I'd circle back to it. So be rude not to.
Let's do it.
And ironically, it's exactly that. It's like, how do I deal with that rejection? It's like just the next conversation. I like to believe that there is good in everybody. And I like to start every interaction and every relationship with every person as if they are a good person. And it's sad when, like I say, recently having been in the States, it happens less in New Zealand, probably because there's less political angst. But, you say hello to someone on the street in the States and they're like, what do you want from me? And I was like, no, I would love for you to have a great day. Like, that's what I want from you. Like, is for you to have a good day. I don't say that, but it's like, it's just that immediate, fear or anxiety. And I don't think I was saying to Michelle, I don't feel like I will ever lose that feeling of I could get told to get lost in the most rude way possible 100 times in a row. And I think I'd still approach the next person with love and with, kindness. The reason being is because I feel like I've been approached that way enough in my life. I grew up on an organic fruit and vegetable farm where we had people from all around the world staying in our house, woofing. Dad used to pick up hitchhikers. I remember at one point, I think we had like 7 different hitchhikers on the back of the ute. Like on the back of the ute, driving through Kirikiri. Highly illegal now. Like I can't imagine what the fine would be for that now. But yeah, political correctness has destroyed the world. But then again, maybe it was unsafe. Who knows? But my point being is that I think I've been showed that love and hitchhiking. Every country in Europe actually is probably the best example. It's like we got into strangers' cars and we couch surfed and we stayed at strangers' houses. And I think there was probably 2 negative interactions, and it might have even just been the way that we were reading one of them. And then the second one wasn't even negative. They were just making a really sick joke about somehow they were Greek and they knew that Kiwis invented bungee jumping. They were asking us to jump off a bridge without ropes. Quite scary at the time. And then they ended up putting us up for 2 nights and feeding us. So it was just that was a sense of humor lost in translation. But my point being is that we didn't have any negative interactions. And I think when you can hitchhike through every country in Europe, including Eastern Europe, and, and you can not very, very, very few negative interactions, you start to see that most of the world is full of love and kindness. And when you let someone else, you give them the space to show that, then it's easy. So that's my really roundabout way of saying, if someone tells me to get lost through tough yarns, it's like, okay. It's like, I very seldom had that. Generally just went, no, thank you. Some people, I said, I've got a crazy proposal for you. And this one guy just immediately said, and I will decline it. I'm like, cool, sweet as. I have no idea. I have no idea what he was going through, and I think to my time now, like yesterday and the day before, I was in a pretty dark headspace, like I say, and I was probably short with people, which maybe in comparison to the rest of the world, that might not have been as short as some people might be, but I felt a little bit bad for that. But then at the same time, I was like, no, I'm struggling with some stuff, and hopefully they can understand that in the same way that I understand that. That's how I deal with the rejection, is just by being a little bit more attuned to the fact that people go through stuff.
Need space. We all need space for being. One of the nicest realizations or teachings of probably my last 6 months has been through a close friend, Sasha, who was teaching about nervous system rewiring. And we did a bunch of work around boundary setting, basically. And this frame of like, even that guy going, no, I will decline it. Like that setting a clear boundary is actually in a lot of cases a really loving thing to do. And I've been discussing this with friends to like integrate it and to understand it better myself. Because I have a tendency to be a people pleaser, thinking like, oh yeah, like I can make people's days better. I can improve things, and like the overall happiness is greater than my own happiness. But then you reach a point, if you're not looking after yourself, if you're like, at this place where actually you can't, you don't feel resourced to deal with whatever it is that's tough, then, and you're still saying yes, then actually you do start to feel resentful, and then you're not coming from this really nice place. So like being able to set those boundaries and go like, hey, I'm not feeling like that today. I know that normally I would be like, oh yeah, of course, I'll jump in and I'll help out and I'll do this. But actually today, I don't need to do that. And everybody has a different baseline, right? Like your baseline, from my experience of you, is very like positive and chipper. And like even now you're talking about that it's been a dark couple of days, and yet you're showing up and talking about gratitude and about all of these things. And it's not that this is stuff that, like, this is natural for you. It's habitual. It's stuff that, like, maybe it's conscious, but from what I see, the baseline is just something that you've built over years and years and years.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's one thing to add to that as well. It's all self-inflicted. like my physical exhaustion is a choice, right? I have chosen to bury myself for 10 years into endurance sport. My financial situation with my business is a choice. I have chosen to turn down, recently I've been offered a couple of good well-paying jobs because I know that those jobs will just be another distraction from helping me achieve my goal of helping people. My relationship, I made a series of bad decisions, and don't need to go into detail, but people can read through the lines. I've made a series of bad decisions within my relationship that have led to the situation that I'm in. And I think, that's both a privilege and a curse, because I know that those are choices of mine, as opposed to someone who I pepper it, because I don't want to give anybody an excuse, because there's enough people who have seemingly situations that are outside of their control who have made something out of it. And other than Oprah is the first person that I can think of, but people that have come from backgrounds of sexual abuse or poverty or whatever, who have made lives that most of us could only dream of. And however, it's hard. I can't feel sorry for myself, because I've chosen to, everything that has led to me to where I am is a decision that I've made. And also at the same time, outside of my control, well, no, maybe it's not outside of my control, other than my father, like the people around me, you, Michelle, one of my best mates, Brandon, my dad, even my mum. She's not the most amazing communicator, but she's getting far better. It's like, I'm super privileged to have chosen a friend group that has whether the ability to communicate, or at least the ability or the patience to provide space. And that's been absolutely amazing. And I just know so well that if I hadn't had those people in my life, that I wouldn't be rocking up this morning, excited. Oh, and my cousin Tom as well, who I should actually, I owe a lot of this to, is he's helped me through a ton of stuff as a coach over the last 12 months. Don't know why I
Yeah.
forgot him, but
Do you feel
yeah.
like there was a place that you, like, I often think about this, that there are a lot of people that want to learn, say, communication skills or the ability to hold space, but you don't get there without first taking small steps towards even having that desire to, like, realize that you're not a particularly strong communicator. Likely capable, I think, a lot of people, of kind of putting ourselves in situations that we won't understand for ourselves. It's clear as day if you see it in somebody else. You go, oh, that person's not a very good communicator. They could have done this, 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 and this. But when it comes to you, you go, oh, yeah, I'm a fantastic communicator. I know how to do this. Like, was there, how do you even get to that point of going, all right, I should learn these things?
When you find the answer to that question, let me know. So this is the irony. This is the humor, right? And this is why it's both exciting and nerve-wracking. When I started the Grit Academy, which is my company, I was talking to people and I was like, look, I've got these skills. I've developed these skills, how to read body language, how to ask effective questions, how to communicate, which sales is communication. I love Daniel Pink. He wrote a book called To Sell is Human. I'm not sure if you've read it, but early on in the book, he really got my attention by saying everybody is in sales. A mother trying to convince her child to eat vegetables is in sales just as much as the child trying to convince its mother that it should have ice cream. And the best salesperson wins. And I was like, okay, cool. And that was kind of maybe that started the whole thought process. But the Grit Academy is basically just sales repackaged, teach people how to communicate. And I spoke to a lot of people, to teachers, to professionals, and I was like, hey, I've got this set of skills. I've been teaching it for the last 15 years. I think I want to start this business and teach teenagers, young adults, prisoners how to communicate. I'm like, that's a brilliant idea, because nobody knows how to communicate. As soon as I started to market it, there's zero interest. And I'm like, everybody thinks that everybody else should learn how to communicate. I haven't met anybody who thinks that they should learn how to communicate it. And that's like, okay, cool. Like, even, I was speaking to a lady, she's helping me build the website for Tough Yarns and the Grit Academy, and she's got a daughter, a child who she thinks could possibly learn to communicate better, and this child thinks that its communication skills are absolutely fine, which realistically, no child's communication skills are great. Like, I
Yeah.
maybe had a head start because dad, well, he didn't force me. I stole his ute and crashed it, and he made me pay for it by working farmers markets every Sunday morning, regardless of my state of mind. And so that was my in the deep end on communication. And anyway, my point being is this: I
It's
think
so good.
the
Wait,
whole, sorry,
why did you steal his ute? I want to circle back to it.
that's so the communication. Everybody could learn to communicate better. I had the most amazing message, and this is one of the things that keeps me going. I could forego all of the followers and all of the likes and all of the shares and all of the comments on Tough Yarns for the few private messages that I get. And I had recently, just in the last few days, I had a message from a lady. I jumped into this whole we fast tracked asking for help, and we haven't taught people how to provide space to ask for help. And I got this message a couple of days ago, goosebumps, from this lady who said, that really triggered something in me. And I've started a counseling course just so that when my friends ask me for help, I can show up for them. And I was like, I need to start a counseling course. So even myself, I've been teaching sales and communication, and I've deep dived on it. I've read so many books, and I've tried to understand, and I've implemented this is the knowledge versus doing. Like, I've read these books, the Daniel Pinks and the Chris Vosses, and I've gone, okay, cool, mirroring, effective questioning, tactical empathy. How do I implement that? And then I'm in a position with door-to-door sales and coaching and teaching that I can then implement that stuff and get other people to implement it and see results change. It's tangible. And over the last couple of days, I'm like, I need to do a counseling course, 100%. That's why I'd thought about it, but then this other lady saying it to me, I'm like, duh. Like, what? Yeah, 100%. So now I'm looking at counseling courses because I'm like, that's a perfect place to start on skills. I don't know if I become a counselor. I don't know, I don't know what happens with that set of skills, but what I do know is that, well, I'd be very surprised if it didn't help me with my communication skills. And then there's the step from that is like, okay, cool. Do we implement that into schools? Like, where do we start teaching these sorts of things?
I mean, if you ask me, schools, great start. There are a ton of skills actually that we need to learn. Communication being a central one. Understanding your emotions is a skill that I think most people don't really. I mean, we try to learn it in later life, and if you're lucky, you have the ability and desire and drive to go and learn about your emotions. But I've only really started to understand my emotions in the last maybe 3 years. Or even had that information or that accessible. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd
Schools
say
move slowly.
for me, it's probably been the last 12 months with Tom just encouraging me to just sit. And emotions are such a funny thing because they really are a feeling. Okay, I'm anxious. Where do I feel that? Is it in my chest? Is it in my stomach? Is it in my head? It's like, okay. And it's so much easier to, just over the last couple of days where I felt, yeah, 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago, where I felt like my whole world was coming apart. It's like, okay, where is that? Like, because the world's not literally crumbling down, and yet I feel nauseous. And, it's like, where is that feeling? Okay, let's just sit with that. Okay, that's interesting. All right, let's dive into that a little bit. And now I'm lucky where I've got these 4 or 5 people. It's like, hey, I'm feeling this thing. Can you just sit with me? And, luckily there's people who are just great at asking questions and having the patience to be able to sit with the answer. But yeah, like I say, and I've deep dived on emotional and mental health. And, for the last 15 years, I've worked on this stuff for 15 years because I've always grappled with my own mental health. And yet it's only in the last 12 months that I've truly started to go, but just this physical feeling. Yeah. Sorry, I took that on a little bit of a tangent, but
Tangents, bro.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
To take it on a tangent, there's this poet, David White, and he talks about the conversational nature of reality. Um, and the fact that we have conversations and they go on tangents, and this thing that you're talking about prompts this other thing, and the emotions that you have, like we're just exchanging emotions, really. Like we're very good at doing it from an intellectual place because we think that means understanding. But to try and loop it back into this, like what communicating is, or that people think that they are good communicators, and what they really want is for other people to be good communicators. It's like we understand the world through the things that we receive, and for
And
that
our
reason, we
perception
want.
of that. I think to add, and our perception of that thing that we receive, because you and I could receive exactly the same thing and yet perceive them both very differently. Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that that information comes in is what we're trying to control often, rather than looking at our own filter, which is a much more effective way of communicating. I don't know if it's you that gave me this little bit of wisdom, but it's that I have two ears and one mouth. And
Use
so
them
I
in
should shut
proportion.
up and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, John Dutton said that to me for probably 3 or 4 years before it actually finally made sense, which is ironic in itself, right? But now it's yeah, yeah, it's true, you know. And I think way too many people spend so much time thinking about what they're going to say next that they actually don't listen to what the person that they're talking to is saying. You know, they're thinking about yeah, their next sentence as opposed to going, what's Tay saying now? Like let's listen and actually absorb that information. And and maybe it's because people are scared of silence as well. I love silence. It's just such a powerful space, but people are scared of it, and so they think, okay, I need to have something ready to say so that when Tay finishes talking, I'm ready to fill that space, as opposed to sitting with it, going, yeah, no, that's a really good point. Let's follow that, as opposed to and I shoot myself in the foot by going, let's circle back to the tough yarns thing earlier on. But like I said, promised that I would. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the silence is an uncomfortable space, but it's socially uncomfortable. Like it comes back to the feelings thing. It's like, oh, okay, in the silent moment, if you don't know someone, especially, what is what's the gap? What's there when there is silence? Um, Part of our cringe club things, one of them is, can you pause for 5 seconds before answering any questions for a whole day? 5 seconds is a long time.
yeah, it is. Yeah, for sure.
You want to try an experiment?
With that,
Yeah.
yeah, could do. I mean, maybe for the listeners, we could do it outside of a podcast, because otherwise the podcast could dry out a little bit. But
Ah, but that's the whole point. Is like, what happens if you're listening to a conversation? What do you feel when you hear people having a conversation? There's a 5 second pause between every statement. We don't have to do it for the whole thing. We could do it for like 2 minutes.
yeah, I think that the beauty in being able to sit in silence with someone is just that, even if it is uncomfortable, if you are able to sit in silence with someone and create comfort in that, I think it just says so much more about your relationship with that person than anything else. To be able to just sit and go, look, I'm okay with this. I think, yeah, it says a lot about someone's relationship with the people that they're with, to be able to be comfortable in silence.
Do you find that in your life there are people that happen like that? Or is it something that's built up?
I think it's both. Like my thought immediately is, my relationship with Michelle when we first started spending time together. I was comfortable in silence. I think both of us were. And then at the same time, people like my mother, for example, she's historically been highly strung, to say the least. I think the best example, I remember driving with her once and just taking a deep breath. I'd randomly take deep breaths. Some people pull me up on it, or not pull me up on it, but call me out and ask questions and just randomly take a deep breath. I remember driving with her once. I took a deep breath. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, right." She's like, "Oh, you just took a deep breath." And I'm like, "Probably ask me if I'm okay if I stop breathing. That'd be a great time to ask me if I'm okay." It's like, and it was in humor, but it was kind of, but at the same time, I think her and I have become much more comfortable in each other's space where that's become a lot more.
Yeah.
Speaking of silence, did I just get a whole lot louder? Did the cafe just get a whole lot louder?
I just got a whole lot louder. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really weird. Is it like, can you still hear me clearly enough?
I can still hear you. And
there is another space that I can go. It was like just down there. I'm going to do that because then they can use this space anyway.
Okay. Did a whole lot of people just arrive?
Nah, that was the weird thing. Like I was like, did it just really get loud? Just so ironic because it was so, we were practicing silence.
Maybe they got uncomfortable and had to fill the space.
Possibly. That would make sense. All right, this might be more quiet down here. And it's an absolutely gorgeous shot of Skipper's Canyon. So.
La la.
Is that more quiet or less quiet?
It's more.
Sweet.
I don't know. I can hear you. And my assumption is that in post, we have these.
We can edit it out.
We have these cool fucking tools now where you basically just let LLM find all of the background noise and take it out. And
I think background noise. So this is ironic. Let's turn all of this on its head. That's a great background, actually. That's brilliant. Let's turn this whole thing on its head. I don't drink. I drink 0% beers, but I love breweries and bars and pubs and cafes. And the social aspect of these places that enable conversation and kind of make people a little bit more comfortable to have conversation. Why do we go for dates, for early dates in a relationship at a cafe or a pub as opposed to, don't get me wrong, I back my ability to cook food. And so if I'm, dating someone, I will, to impress, I will cook them food because they want to know that I've got someone who can provide for them, right? And vice versa. However, I have recently started spending more time at bars. One specific bar in Queenstown, Altitude Brewery, and partly because they helped sponsor an event that I did in November and will probably hopefully work with me on another event this November. But the space, I don't encourage drinking. And, there was recently a bit of kerfuffle from, I think it was I Am Hope. Who's the founder of I Am Hope? Mike. Anyway, he talked about how alcohol was good for one's mental health. That out of context is, yeah, exactly. But a beer or at least a shandy or maybe a 0% beer in a public setting with friends where you can have a conversation and just enjoy one's company is exponentially better for someone's mental health. And that's why it's ironic that, it's a tough ground to bridge. And this November, I'm planning on doing something that revolves around breweries and in turn alcohol. But then in exactly the same breath, a lot of people who are struggling with mental health, with depression and anxiety are probably at the pub or, drinking sorrows away and those sorts of things. And they're not going to meet us at 6 a.m. at the cafe, so let's meet them at 8 p.m. at the pub. If we have to meet them where they are, then let's do that.
think it's a really good point, and it ties together a couple of things that we were talking about earlier. The first is like, how do you get people? We're talking about how do you get people to like want to learn communication skills.
Mhm.
I was doing research on this, and the meta studies I was reading basically was saying you got to meet people where they are. There are a few things that give an outsized impact, and it's going to where the people are, using their language, and having the message come from someone that is just like them. So it's like if my mum has a cause that she really wants my friends to jump on board with, her
Uh-huh.
going and preaching that to them probably isn't going to be that effective. But if instead I have the same message and I go and tell my friends, they're probably going to pick it up way faster.
Yep.
Um, so like, how do you get people on board with these things? Yeah, you go and talk to them where they're
You
at.
match them there. Sales
Yeah,
101, right? Matching body language.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give me a very quick rundown on this, because I know the context, but some of my friends don't necessarily, and everybody can benefit from some sales 101.
Mm.
If if I didn't know anything about this matching and mirroring, what would you tell me?
My first thought, and it's funny that you say that and we're on this conversation. So rapport, people talk about rapport and being in rapport with someone. I summarize rapport as people like them. So if we have something in common, which is exactly what you're saying there, right? It's like your mum trying to preach her cause to your friends is not going to come across the same way as you preaching that cause to the same cause to your friends, because you guys have something in common. And that's so obvious. If I meet you at a skate park, we're probably going to get along, because the people who hang out at skate parks are generally people who like something to do with skate parks, right? Whereas if we meet at somewhere like a cafe or a bar, it's like, oh, we like coffee, but that's probably less of a of a personality trait, right? Whereas skateboarding or something, I'm just using skateboarding as an example. So people like them, and then people like people who like them. So you're giving someone, and once again, it has to be a genuine compliment. But if I give you a genuine compliment, you're going to like me more. And the problem with a lot of, now that has to be natural, and it has to be genuine, and it has to be true.
Is there a way that you stop it, or that you catch yourself, or is it just practice? Like if you see someone with red shoes and you don't really like the shoes, will you still compliment the shoes, or like how do you think about these, like when you're giving genuine compliments?
I think you just feel them. If you see something, and it's that practice, and the more that you practice, the more that you, the better that you get at it. It's exactly the same thing. So it's like this lady with the pink dress, to go back to pre-relationship, and not to blow my own trumpet, but I was relatively good at talking to people that I was attracted to, and purely because I'd done a ton of practice people speaking to everybody, speaking to the old guy with the sparkly suit and the cool boots. And it's like, man, I love your style. And that just gives you the confidence to be able to then talk to the person who you're genuinely attracted to. The ability to be able to continue a conversation, even if you don't have anything in common, and you can't give someone a compliment, that's probably the key. So beyond rapport, then there's always a script when you're selling something, right? And I think this is where the next part of communication comes in. It's like the script is storytelling. And some people really struggle with storytelling, where they kind of, and I mean, in fact, not some people, everybody struggles with storytelling in some way, shape, or form somewhere. Still to this day, I'll be telling a story and I'll start at the end and I'll be like, oh, hang on a second, let me bring it back. And it's not intentional. Some films or some reels or some places will use the end of the story as a hook, which is, yeah, good on them. Brilliant. When you're telling a story, if you don't do that with intention, then it's just poor storytelling, and I do it too often probably. But the point is that there's generally like a problem, and then there's a solution to that problem. And too many people kind of jump between the two, and it's very all over the place. I think one of the best examples of a sale that I've done is, and this is building rapport, it's gathering intelligence, kind of all in the same one. I was fundraising for IHC once upon a time. So IHC in New Zealand is an organization.
What's IHC?
It's an organization in New Zealand that help people with intellectual disabilities, so autism, Down syndrome.
Cool. Amazing.
They've been around 77, 78 years. They're an amazing organization. I knocked on this lady's door. This was probably about 5 years ago. It's a fundraising in Dunedin. Knocked on this lady's door. She had this pretty cool statue out the front, but like you say, it didn't grab my attention enough to. I don't like disingenuous compliments, and a lot of salespeople, especially door to door, will go, "Oh, I love your garden." I don't know why I said that with an accent, but it's like, do you like? Are you a gardener? No, you're just trying to build rapport and try that. You don't try, right? Maybe Yoda had something with the do or do not, but introduce, hey, how's it going? I'm Andrew here on behalf of IHC. You've heard of us? Yes, you know what I actually do? Yeah, absolutely. Do you know anyone with an intellectual disability? And I start just asking a whole lot of questions. And so normally there's a full script. This is the problem that we face. A lot of people with intellectual disabilities don't get enough support at school and don't get work opportunities. And IHC, we help them and their families jump through the hoops that they need to jump through to be able to get this support. And that's normally the pitch, obviously shortened. And this lady, I know my nephew has autism. Amazing. Can I ask, what was his schooling like? It was appalling. He didn't have the support that he needed. He didn't have any friends. And I'm just there just listening. So firstly, that's building rapport. I didn't have a genuine compliment for her. We didn't have anything in common other than the fact that she knew someone with an intellectual disability, and I was genuinely interested in this situation. So I'm just asking questions, and I'm following a line of questioning, and I can go into that a little bit as well if you want, but I was following a line of questioning like a tangent, following that, what was his schooling like? Struggle, right. Okay, cool. How old is he? He's 23. So he's finished school. Yeah. Okay. What's his life like now? She's like, it's amazing. I was like, why? She's like, he found manga, just Japanese drawing. And I'm like, okay, like, tell me about that. And she's like, it's just, and I could see her light up. She's like, it's so cool. He found manga. He's got this community. He's got friends. Like, he's just got this group of people around him, and he's come out of his shell and all of that sort of stuff. And that was the way that this line of questioning went. And yes, it was intentional, but it was also genuine, right? I was genuinely interested in her nephew. And a part of me was like, okay, I either do the full pitch or maybe shortened, where I explained this is the problem with people with intellectual disabilities. But she's just explained everything here. So she's like, so what are you guys doing? And I'm like, we're fundraising. She's like, how come? And I was like, our goal is to take people who have lives like your nephew had and give them lives like your nephew has. That was my spirit. That was my pitch. She's like, how do I help? Sign this form and grab your credit card and we'll get it set up. And it was amazing. And it was the epitome of just a genuine conversation, genuine interest in her situation, not thinking about the end outcome, not thinking about the next person that I'm talking to or the previous, but just being present with her. And it just made life so easy. And it's funny, and this leads me into another tangent. Once again, I was in the States, I was coaching sales over there. And when I first arrived, there was this girl who I was talking to. She was in real estate. Everybody's in real estate in the States. It's crazy. I mean, she was still a full-time bartender, but she was in real estate. And I said that, she's like, what are you doing in the States? And I was like, coaching sales. She's like, you're a closer. I'm like, nah, don't think so. She's like, how can you teach sales if you're not a closer? I was like, I feel like I'm good enough at just building a relationship and then explaining the problem and the solution well enough that people close themselves. She's like, okay. Like if you are selling a house and I come to you and I say, Tay, what are you looking for? You're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. You're looking for a duplex. What's your budget? What color do you want? All of these, I just get all of the information for you. I find out all of your limiting factors. Now, I'm not saying there won't be objections, but if I find out everything that you're looking for and I've sold real estate, everything that you're looking for when you're buying a house or a car or whatever it is that you're selling, a t-shirt at a surf shop. What are you looking for? What's your budget? What color? How big? Everything. And then I've got that particular thing that you're looking for within the budget that you're looking for. There's no reason for me not to go, cool. So now that I've got all of this, do you want to grab your credit card details and let's get started? I don't need to close you because I've spent enough time finding out what it is that you want. And that is communication. And that's the beauty of being present and spending time with someone and being present enough to actually look at their body language and listen to them and hear them. This takes me on another tangent, but the reason that I really wanted to start the Grit Academy and I'm really excited, and the reason that I've recently turned down well-paid sales roles is because I was working with a school last year in Queenstown. There's this one kid, 14-year-old, and I was teaching effective questioning, follow a line of questioning. We were using the examples, so you put the name up and I was teaching them that. And famous person, am I an actor? Am I an actress? Am I a musician? Am I a politician? Why am I famous? And exhaust all possibilities there before moving on to, am I over 20? Am I over 30? Am I over 40? Am I over 50? I'm over 50, but I'm under 60. Cool. Okay, now moving on to the next. Famous for action films, or, I'm an actor, so am I famous for action films or comedy or drama or action? Okay, cool. Is it DC? Is it Marvel? Is it, okay, I'm a 50-year-old white guy from Marvel films. Am I Robert Downey Jr.? Yes, sweet, easy as. So I did that with these kids and then I got them to practice. This is such a tangent. I got them to practice and I was teaching these two kids that, and I said, use, what I want you guys to do is go and sit down and I just want you to follow a line of questioning and I want you to find out what the other person is passionate about. Ask as many questions as you need and follow a line of questioning. And so I'm working with these two kids and this one kid, 14-year-old, I'm like, what did you do on the weekend? I was like, I went skiing. Cool. I like skiing. I'm a skier. What sort of skiing? He's like, ski touring. I was like, oh, tell me about your ski touring. And he kind of just sat up a little bit. Like he was like, just a tiny, exactly. It's just this tiny little, and I followed that. And then at the end of that, I was like, you really like ski touring, don't you? And he's like, how can you tell? I was like, because when I asked about ski touring specifically, not just skiing, you just sat up a little bit. He's like, you can tell if someone's excited about something just from that. And that was the click for me that I just went, I want to teach people this. Like that was the penny drop. His enthusiasm, his excitement and learning something seemingly for me so simple was like, I want to give this to the world, and I don't yet still entirely know how or where or in what form. I'm still grappling with that. And if you've got any ideas or anyone who can come up with some, then please let me know. But right now I'm just kind of working with the school and one-on-one and still doing sales coaching to pay the bills. So, yeah.
Okay. I was about to ask, actually, is there anyone that you want to meet? Is there any, what does I was going to say, what does the next step for Grit Academy look like? But the real question that I'm interested in is like, what does it feel like when Grit Academy is like in 5 years' time? What does Grit Academy feel like?
It's that, if I can replicate that feeling where I get one person to go, oh, this is amazing. This is, changed my life. Like I say, it's so, even for yourself, having done, how long were you on the doors for? It was about a year?
It's about a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still one of the
I
most...
think everybody should do door to door for at least 6 months.
I think so
personally.
too. I think it
Yeah.
was one of the most informative times of my life. And not just for the skills of being able to communicate and sell and like read body language and like all of the specific skills, but more the mindset stuff. And I remember going through this like real so when I did this I was 19, 20. Yeah, I think I was still doing it my 20th birthday. And I remember being then a few years later being 23, 24, and I didn't have that same, like I'd gone through a wave of, I'd lost that like grit that
Mm-hmm.
you get from doing door-to-door sales, the like the mindset, and if I can just knock on every single door with the same, without remembering what the last one was like or without thinking about what the next one will be like. I recently watched the show Ted Lasso, which I fucking love.
I haven't seen
Um,
it, but I've been meaning to.
I think it's
It's
right up
good.
your alley. It's
Yeah, cool.
really good. It's
Yeah.
positive. He's just like an amazing human and
Mm-hmm.
coach. And then the show is quirky and kind and funny. But one of the classic lines that he has is like, "Be like a goldfish." Like every
Mm-hmm.
time you go out there onto the pitch, be like a goldfish. Forget about what happened in the past. Don't think about what's happening in the future. You're right here. You're a
Yeah.
goldfish. Be a
Yeah.
goldfish. Um,
Mm.
and that ability to show up every single time with the same enthusiasm, I lost that when I was in my mid-20s, and then like actively spent quite a lot of effort that didn't take effort when we were learning door-to-door sales because it was just what was required.
Mhm.
Um, but took effort to get back to that place of like having a strong mindset and going like, you know what, the like life is coming from me, it's not coming at me. It's like this ability to show up and kind of grapple with the things and roll with the punches and love it, because there's never going to be no problems. There's never going to be like, it gets boring if every single door that you knock on, people are like, oh yeah, I absolutely need that. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
we're looking for,
Yeah.
we're hunting, we're,
Yeah.
we're like looking around for
Searching.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't encourage someone enough to do it. Like it's a degree in its own, the skills that you learn for, with communication with sales, the mindset that you get. It's ironic because there's this massive influx of rejection therapy apps and influencers and these sorts of people like, yeah, learn to take rejection. It's like you'd have to pay for a degree, you'd have to pay for a mindset coach, you'd have to go out of your way during your day to practice rejection. It's like you can do all of that and get paid at the same time for it. And door-to-door's changed because it's not the old school, well, at least the companies that I've worked for and work with, it's not the you get paid, we got paid very little in the grand scheme of things for the hours that we were doing. It was pretty dire looking back on the early days, but times have changed where people are making, $600-700 base wage US in the US, and they're making $1,000 a week base wage in New Zealand, plus comms to be able to, plus commissions to be able to learn the skill, master mindset, all of these sorts of things. Like, I'm
That's
not saying you
fantastic.
have to drink the Kool-Aid and get fully into it, but go and do it for 3 or 6 months.
Okay, here's a pitch for you. Uh, Grit Academy. Doesn't have to be this. But people are wanting to do rejection therapy. They're wanting to be coached. They're willing to pay for this stuff often. There's a bunch of skills they here learn. There are a ton of charities and different organizations that you know about that you're super passionate about and you would probably work for free, but you choose to work for them because you like them, right? What if Grit Academy is, all right, we're doing rejection therapy. Here's the training. Here's the pitch. You don't get paid, but we're going to go out and learn these skills and we're going to raise
Yes.
money for these organizations that we love.
Yeah, could be. I'm actually, I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit on this one, and I won't say the company because there's still a few finer details, but there's a company that I work with who have a training system which is available online for, I think it's 2,500 US or something, which is available to the public. It is all of the skills that we teach in door to door. I'm in the process of working with them through Tough Yarns to basically provide that service at a fraction of probably $100 for the whole course or something. And at the end of that, it's a guaranteed job interview. So it's not, you don't get like put in a list of people and go through. But yeah, I'm still fine tuning the whole thing. And I just want to make sure that, I know that their values align with mine because I've worked with that company for about 6 years now. And now I contract to them through the Grit Academy. But yeah, that'll be up probably in the next few months, I'd imagine. And so once I get there, if you know anyone looking for a job, as I say, it'll be, the skills that are taught will be worth exponentially more than the cost paid with a guaranteed job interview at the end. And it's obviously more targeted towards people who maybe are young, maybe don't have a job. But at the same time, like even people our age, if you're stuck, go knock on doors for 3 or 6 months because it's a great place to get
Seriously.
unstuck. Yeah.
It's fantastic. I also think that and part of wanting to talk about this stuff, wanting to do this podcast, is that the world is changing really fast. And there are lots of instances where jobs are changing, where roles are changing, where it's harder and harder to get traditional entry-level roles. So how do you, without any experience, go and build these skills? How do you do that today versus how it happened, 10 years ago?
I mean, I would start with if you're in a job that you enjoy and you want to ride that job for as long as it's going to be rideable for, if it is going to be replaced by AI, those sorts of things, start reading firstly. And there's so many places that you can start, right? I think the likes of Atomic Habits by James Clear is a brilliant place. Any of Mark Manson's books, I think he summarizes optimistic nihilism and stoicism and Buddhism for our generation really well. Like it's a palatable stoic philosophy.
He's the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah. And Everything is Fucked, which is his book about optimistic nihilism. Basically, it's really good as well. Mindset books. I think the likes of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is just, it took me a few years. I wish that I'd read it earlier, but at the same time, I've read it and it's just phenomenal. And I thought it was going to be a really tough read. I thought it was going to be really gritty and but I think I read it in a few days and I remember sitting in a bath just enjoying it. It was such a bizarre feeling. And then the skills books, you've got Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, Daniel Pink's To Sell Is Human. If you can park the ethics side of things, any of Jordan Belfort's stuff on YouTube, Jordan Belfort being the Wolf of Wall Street. Yes, not the most morally compassed person, but his ability to communicate, his straight mind theory, his ability to build rapport and gather intelligence or ask questions is second to none.
How do you feel about Robert Cialdini? Worthwhile, or would you
haven't
prioritize?
Read any of his stuff?
Okay. Interesting. I think maybe less practical and more he wrote Influence, and he's written a bunch of other books, but I think it might be a little bit more marketing focused.
He wasn't the 48 Laws of Power, was he?
No, that's somebody else. I don't remember the author. But probably worth a look. I mean, I think a lot of the time with these books or just information in general, if it's the first time that you're hearing the information, it's mind blowing, and then in every subsequent book that you read that kind of covers the same stuff, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that was good, but I've already heard a version of this theory.
James, one of my mentors has been and always will be James Weeble. He calls it self-help masturbation. It's after a while, it's just the same thing translated in a slightly different way. And at some point you need to implement it. And so I think my recommendation, especially for the likes of Chris Voss, because Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss is an ex-hostage negotiator. He does a phenomenal job of breaking down, accusations order and owning your history and tactical empathy and these sorts of things. Sorry, someone vacuuming around me. He does such a good job of breaking it down, but just to go and read the whole thing and not actually practice it is silly. It's like read one chapter and then go out and practice it and then maybe read it again and go, oh, maybe I could do that. Like just dive into that one chapter for a week. And just go and practice, attunement, or I don't know, go and practice one of the skills that you learn in one of the books that you read. Pick a book that you enjoy and just read it and go, okay, cool. How can I practice that? How can I implement that? And then once you start to understand it, then move on to the next part. So, okay, cool. And then eventually you just start to stack these skills. And then at some point you go, whoa, I can communicate. This is crazy.
Yeah, I like that. A couple of days ago, this thought's bounced around for a while in my head, but it's like I read so many books or listen to audiobooks or like I consume so much information, and I've decided that the filtering mechanism of life, like what is actually useful for me, what filters in, what things do I remember? If I don't remember it, it's probably not meant to be here, at least right now. And if I need it, I will go back and relearn it. But I've wanted for a long time to have some form of, thank you, vacuum cleaner gods.
So it was here. It was, you can hear it.
Oh yeah. My assumption is that the AI will be able to extract the background noise if that's the case.
If not, I apologize for being unorganized and doing this in a cafe.
For being
I thank you
human.
for your patience and understanding. Yeah.
You in your voice note you left a funny description of where you've been and what you've been up to, but up to you if you want to. I'm
staying in a tent on my friend's lawn, and I didn't know if a cafe would be better than the tent. Starting to think the tent might have been better.
Nah, I love this roll with the punches
yeah, for
attitude. Sure. I was like, oh, we could range it. You're like, no, let's go.
Yeah, we can do a follow-up at some point with more clarity.
But all right, hold on before we go on a tangent. So this thing this idea that's been bounced around in my head is like, all right, I consume all this information. I read books that have really practical applications. Can I build a tool that is essentially a book revision? Like what like Goodreads is amazing. Cool. I can see what I've read and keep track of the books that I'm buying and that I like, whatever. Can I also have a version of that goes, cool, you've read Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. What are the key concepts? What are the practices to go back and revise that? There's a bunch of research on like how often you revise something and how it sticks in your mind. So yeah, I've been building this little tool basically over the last couple of days, which is cool. This is the book that I've read. These are the key frameworks. This is a quiz for getting you to actually remember the content. And these are the notes that I've like pulled out of it. Yeah, any thoughts on how you would build it? What you would like?
Is it going to be interactive with other people? Can people upvote?
That's a good question.
I was thinking A, upvote books, but also B, upvote chapters. Because there's some parts in books that like hit differently, if that makes sense. Yeah. There's some parts in books. I mean, for example, Daniel Pink, like there's the whole book. There's the idea of attunement and buoyancy and clarity, and there's all of these different parts of that book. But the one thing that really hit home with me, and maybe it's because it's a great way for me to sell communication, But the part that really hit home for me is the fact that everybody's in sales. So cool. Okay. If we need to, and sales is just, it's moving someone from point A to point B. And if we can do that ethically, and if we can do that for the betterment of the person that you're communicating with and the world, then that's a good place to be. And just to touch on that note as well, sales has such a sticky, like snake and sales just sounds that they work together really well. And unfortunately, door-to-door sales has a bad rep because of the number of pushy, door-to-door salespeople who are purely just trying to get a commission. And this kind of goes back to what we touched on earlier on. It's like if you start to forget about the outcome and you start to just do stuff for the love of doing it, the outcome generally becomes better for you anyway. I love working in spaces that have a negative connotation. I've recently finished working for a marketing company as a salesperson. People don't like marketing companies. People don't like salespeople. So to be a salesperson for a marketing company, I was starting off on the wrong foot every time. And just by owning that, just by saying, hey, look, you probably don't like me because I'm a salesperson from a marketing company, people just relaxed. And then it's like, then I'd ask enough questions. And, I was asking questions of these businesses and I'd go, actually, do you know what? You really need Google ads, not SEO. Yes, you will need SEO for sure, but right now you could probably do better off with Google ads or a marketing campaign. I recommend these businesses. We didn't do that. And so if we can learn to move people ethically, then the world can become a better place. And I say ethically because the 6-year-old shouldn't have ice cream for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Ethically, we're probably better off encouraging him to eat vegetables a little bit, sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
And that's using sales ethic, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, would you like to eat 3 pieces of broccoli or would you like to eat 4 pieces of broccoli?
I mean, and that's when you start to get into the weeds a little bit. But yeah, it's just identifying, should this person buy the thing that I'm selling, or does this person need the inspiration, or what does this person actually need? And that's where being present enough to be able to actually listen to them and understand what it is that they need and want. Then we can, then if we have the thing that they need and want, then we can make the sale, for better choice of words. And I'm saying sale, it's a transaction. It's, even if it's not a transaction, it's just giving something somewhere. Because we've seen all too often that even trying to just give stuff away can be really difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about this company where another name of the company, they give away water, and on the bottles of water there's advertising, and that's how they can make it free. And they give out these bottles of water, and seem like a really interesting business model that is very forward, or just different. Like we seem to have repackaged versions of the same stuff often, but it's cool to see these like little tweaks, these little innovations that are different.
Yeah. Yeah. And the world is such a fascinating place now with online and with social media and those sorts of things, that I think it is advertising that probably pays the most bills, and to be able to get enough followers, or, that's currency now, which is pretty crazy. I think we're coming back around with the likes of AI and those sorts of things that are kind of maybe, hopefully, destroying the need for millions of followers. Hopefully, eventually, it's not followers or even engagement that sells. It's actual, the amount of support that I've had from businesses because of the values that I have, not because, I've had support from businesses over the last 6 months that have not even asked how many followers Tough Yarns have. And luckily
so
I'm in a
cool.
position now where even if they did ask, I'd be pretty comfortable in saying how many followers and the sort of engagement that we've got. Like it's a good backstop, but I don't lead with that. Hey, this is my values and my belief and my goals. Would you like to be a part of it? And they go, yeah, that sounds epic. By the way, there's 100,000 people watching. Oh, sick. It's like, yeah, it's Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's this. I have questions about like how online changes or how social media, Instagram, TikTok, all of these things change the landscape of commerce or of attention. Um, because the information that's out there is becoming more and more like it's very cheap now to make content. And there's so much, and and we're at the slowest point that we'll ever be at potentially. Like you think about the human-made internet, which is, this big, and it takes, I don't know, a team of developers a week to build a website in the past, and now it can happen in 10 minutes
Mhm.
from a single sentence from a person. It's like you extrapolate that out and you go, all right, the human internet is going to be like this, and the AI internet and AI commerce and all of that is going to be, it's going to dwarf
Yeah,
what we're doing.
yeah, yeah. I think that makes me think about who and what I'm engaging with a lot. One of the things, and I think the intention is good. I think the intentions are right, but I have, I have followed and I have worked with mental health influencers, for better choice of words, that are very much, you've got this, I've got your back, life's great. And I think that's the ice cream. And we need a little bit of ice cream. But I think the vegetables is the difficult conversation. And it's interesting because I see uh, these influencers get a huge following and the engagement's massive and people love it because they're like, yeah, thank you so much. I love what you're doing. But I think it's like motivation versus discipline. Motivation comes and goes, right? Like if you relied on motivation, you'd get something done for a couple of days and you'd go, I'm not motivated today. I'm not going to go and do it. And it's like, that's when you need the discipline. And I'm in a really, once again, fortunate position. This is the eternal optimist in me where I'm really having to implement everything that I've talked about having difficult conversations. It's like, okay, now I've got to front up and have some difficult conversations. And I think, yeah, who you engage with and what you follow is going to change how you show up. If it's just constant, oh, I need to scroll to see this person's reel, to see them tell me that I'm enough. It's like, that's going to help you for 5 minutes. But what happens if you engage with someone who teaches you how to get to the bottom of why you think you're not enough and actually really have those dark and deep conversations instead of just staying at the surface? It's just, it's band-aids, right? Um, and I think on that note is, oh, sorry, go. It reminds me of one thing which I'll put out and probably today or tomorrow. Let's do it today. Why not? Let's just get it done. Is have the difficult conversation now, because there's conversations that I'm having now which are exponentially more difficult than the conversation I could have had 2 or 3 years ago when I was struggling with things. I was grappling with things and I was struggling with impulses and urges and thoughts. And if I just had that conversation then, it would have sucked and I'm sure it would have been difficult, but it would have been so much easier than the conversations that I'm having to have now. And, I would rather, yeah, what's the saying? I'd rather have you cry on my shoulder than me cry over your coffin or something. It's kind of like that. It's like, let's cry together now instead of me crying at your funeral.
Do you think like this is super easy to say, right? Or it's easy to say these things that we should have had conversations back then. Is there a way that you could frame this for yourself 2 years ago, or is there like a way that if you would, you know, like what would have made you listen to this advice? Or is it just in hindsight that we see these things? Because I struggle with this too.
I think it's just having enough force to push you into the conversation. And sometimes that amount of force comes from not it being too late, but just from something so big happening that it forces change. Unless you had showed me what was going to happen 3 years ago, I don't think there's anything that could have been done to have forced me to have that conversation then.
Interesting. I often have this this thought, and I've done this meditation a couple of times, which is future Ty is calling me home to that person, and what are they saying? What is his advice? How can he hold up a mirror from that place and say, hey, there's going to be this forcing function, and you should look at doing this thing now. Like, what's that quiet voice? Yeah, I'm getting chills. I don't know what the answer is.
I think it's so hard to plan because there's so many things. I'm starting to believe a little bit in determinism. It's actually I had this really weird few weeks where I got given a tiny little figurine of Jesus. This guy said, I believe everybody should have a little Jesus in their life, and that pun just made me laugh, and it forced me to hold on to it. Normally I wouldn't. And then so that was my last week in the States, and then as I was flying home from the States, I was sitting next to this couple, and they were recently married, and I asked them, I said, how did you know that this was your person? And then they started to talk about Christianity, and do you mind if we talk to you about Christianity? I was like, it's a 12-hour flight. Let's go. Why not? What else am I going to do? Normally I wouldn't, but it was really fair. We dived into Jesus and into Adam and Eve and into Moses and into their stories and then the values of Christianity. And it made me start to think about how maybe this is, on my parents and on my upbringing and the rest, but I think internally, and this comes down to that perception, I think we all have these values inherently: love thy neighbor, be compassionate, be kind, be caring. Like, they're all inherent, and yet we maybe just call them something different based on our language and based on our understanding of these things. And if we look at religions around the world, they all kind of have the same theme. And they've all kind of got the same stories as well. Most of them had a flood, and most of them had someone who suffered for a few days or a month, depending on whether it's Buddhism, Christianity. Like, they've all got these same things. And I'm wondering if there was like 100 people who were just watching this one person suffer, and then they went away to different parts of the world, and along the way they handed down their stories to the next person. And then, the game Telephone, or in New Zealand, we used to call it Chinese whispers, but I'm really scared of saying that now because it's political correctness. But
it is a very racist word for it, and I didn't realize how.
Yeah. Anyway, so the idea of of telling one person a story and then that person telling the story again, and it changes over time, and it's like I wonder if thousands of years ago, a whole lot of people saw the same event and went to their different parts of the world. And as time went on, they told the stories slightly differently, and the figure changed and their name changed. And I wonder if we're all looking at the same thing, and if we all believe the same values, and that kindness and love and generosity and care are just inherent. And some people call it God, and some people call it, it's fascinating.
I completely agree. But I don't even think that it's that this happened to a single person. I think that it's this universal experience of this thing happened and this thing happened and this thing happened. And everybody, it's like we were talking about cliches earlier. it was so universal and so beautiful that, like, the religious stories are just the original cliches. It's like all
Yeah.
of these things happened that was so, oh, I have to pass that on. Oh, of course I'm going to pick that
Mm.
up.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's funny that you bring up Jesus too, because I had just been visiting a friend in Rio for their birthday,
Mhm.
and I was with a bunch of Americans, and they were talking about friends who had found, they were talking about how they had lost friends to Jesus, basically, that they were in this, that they were living kind of all similar lives. And then sometimes people would go and become super religious and all they wanted to do was talk about Jesus. And I think that, just as a tangent, that is like people want these values and they want to live this particular life, or like they want to live this open life. And that is a pathway to understanding it in a very clear and concrete way in a world that is chaotic and nuanced and there is a lot of gray area, right? Um, but they're asking me, Ty, like, are you worried that you'll find Jesus? And I was going like, no, Jesus and I are playing hide and seek.
Yeah.
Like, like, yeah, I'm looking and we're finding bits and pieces and we're having these conversations. Um, we don't need to like find each other in this way. It's like it's the conversational nature of it. It's the back and forward. It's this that we're talking about that, oh, of course we
Mm.
found that universal story about how treating the people that are next to you is the obvious way
Yeah.
to treat people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've already found Jesus, but maybe just by a different name. And Matthew McConaughey put this so lovely. And there's a couple of things in the Ten Commandments that kind of give it away. But like, if you could put the Ten Commandments on the wall and take out any obvious tells of Christianity and just remove the author's name, and everybody just lived by those values, like it doesn't matter who wrote them. It's just they're just a great way to live. Like, and there's, like I say, I don't know all of them off by heart, and I know that there's some that are giveaways. Like, let's maybe make them 8 commandments, or let's change a couple of the commandments just to make it a little bit more general for the entire world. But like, they're a great way to live.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's the things that kind of separate it for me is that and generally I can speak to this as the organized religion and religion, say, or spirituality, or however we want to define it. This broad bucket of I believe in something that I can't put um any other words to except for that it's a religious experience. And organized religion, the only separation for me between them is the organized religion seems like there is an author, there is authority that is trying to be placed into the hands of somebody who is currently in the world and who can speak through the divine. And anything that is a religious experience is essentially a connection with yourself and the knowing of what is right to you. Um, and so the only difference there is agency, is who has the agency.
yeah, it's and that's what I was saying to this couple on the plane. We believe in exactly the same things. It's just you call it God and I call it determinism. I call it, I don't know if we have free will. And I genuinely, I don't, but we kind of, we're believing the same things. We're just using slightly different words. And neither of us are right and wrong. And these people were amazing because they were so passionately Christian, but they never forced it on me. They said, do you mind if we tell you about it? And I was maybe in a place where I was willing to, but I never once felt like I was forced to listen. And they could have, I'm right there. They could have just like looked at me and just spoken at me the whole time. But I felt like I had this genuine ability to, once again, I don't believe in free will, but I had this genuine ability where if I said no, they would have gone, okay, that's fair. and they wouldn't have forced it upon me, and we could have spoken about something completely different. But yeah, it just, and that's what made me, I think that's what made me open to saying yes, was the fact that I didn't feel forced to. Because as soon as someone, starts to force you to listen, you're like, I don't want to listen.
Yeah.
Not if you're forcing me to.
Sales 101, bro.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, so I'm conscious of time and I know that you have a meeting coming up. So I wanted to start to wind down, but I have a couple of things. I love the idea of you asking a question for the next guest. Um, maybe even to, this is all emerging as we go. So it's either at the end, like I'm asking you now, or maybe it's to kick off the next conversation that I have. So I'm just going to plant that seed there for you. But I
I've got
have,
one if you want it, where you can.
well, first of all, I have a question from the last person.
Oh yeah, cool.
Um, and this is an amazing woman, Erin Stamford, who is a public speaker on burnout, and she's spoken for Tony Robbins and his organization, just like a amazing human. And I was asking her, all right, well, what question would you like to hand on to the next person? And I'm going to paraphrase this, but basically her question is, what made you feel the most excited in the last week?
I think I've already answered that. The idea of being at rock bottom and having nowhere to go but up. It's a bizarre feeling. And I don't know if I'm tempting fate in saying that. Murphy's got other plans in store for me, and I don't know if he could find something else which could make my life work. Like, if my bike got stolen, then yeah, that is rock bottom. Now I just touch wood. Yeah, just seeing this as an opportunity for so many things, to go up, to practice everything that I've preached over the last 12 months, to have difficult conversations, to build and rebuild relationships with the people around me. To do a quick deep dive. I've struggled, maybe, I don't know if struggled is the right word. My relationship with women is not what it could be or not what it should be. And every time I think about spending time with my grandmother and my mother and my sister, I get really emotional. Like over the last few days, every time I've thought about it, I've cried. That's the first time I've not cried when I've said that. And that tells me something. So I'm going to head north in the next couple of weeks and go and spend a few weeks with my grandmother. And then I'm going to fly over to Aussie and spend a few weeks with my mum, and then go and spend probably a week with my sister at her place. And just, I don't know what I need to do. I don't know if I need to rebuild the relation or not rebuild the relationship, but I don't know if I just need to spend time and just need to have coffee and just love them. Yeah, this is forced that. And I'm excited about that. It's a really
Yeah.
long way of answering that question.
Oh, it's a beautiful way of answering that question. I get it. I think that emotion is is a directional cue. Just because something makes you cry doesn't mean that it is a particular emotion. I cry out of the blue about all sorts of things. Sometimes it's sadness, sometimes it's just stuff that needs to come out. And it's like, all right, wow, that is hitting something.
Yeah.
Let's look at it. Let's get curious about it.
I think to give you an idea as to the meaning of my crying, I haven't cried for years. Maybe, maybe I'll kind of shed a tear once or twice a year, but like sobbed uncontrollably. Nothing like I have done in the last 72 years. Just maybe that's why I'm feeling lighter. Maybe that's why I've got that out. Yeah.
Tears wash it away. Um, all right, I'm ready for your question.
I reckon this would be a great starting point for the next guest.
Okay.
There's a few, not caveats, but one, I don't like asking people what they do. I like asking people what they love doing. I think it frames that question so much better because it gives them freedom to be able to answer that how they like. Number two, everybody is a morning person when they're 5 years old on Christmas Day. I love that quote. And so a question that I've been asking people recently is, what's something that gets you out of bed any time of the morning because you're looking forward to that thing so much? And you might have to figure out the framing of the question, and I still need to figure it out myself. But do you know what I mean? Sometimes you wake up at 5 o'clock. Like most times I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, alarm. But sometimes, I've got a big mission in the mountains. For me, it's mountains. It's like, I've got a big mission in the mountains. My alarm goes at 5 and I'm like, yeah, time to get the skis ready. Like that's my thing. And so, yeah, I think that'd be a great place to start the next
Of that
podcast.
frame. I see it as everyone is a morning person when they're 5 years old on Christmas morning.
Yeah.
What makes you feel like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's super basic, but maybe there's another frame.
100%. What today makes you feel like you did at 5 years old on Christmas morning?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know for me if there's anything that quite does it. I'm
Nothing?
going to find that again. I mean, the thing that comes to mind, but I haven't done it for a couple of years, is when it snowed outside and I'm going snowboarding that day. It does.
Yeah, you were
not
always
matter.
big on your snowboarding, eh?
Yeah. I've done a lot.
What about travel?
A lot. Travel is novelty for me now. Travel is like, I've been coming back to this idea of, and it's the Pink Floyd album cover of the Prism. And it's the you are the prism, and the light that's coming in is the universal, and the rainbow that's coming out is the personal experience. And so for me, travel is both, like, showed me that the universe, the world, everybody is essentially the same. It's remarkable how, like, just you go to different places and people are very, very, very similar. You don't even I don't have to speak the same language. I can sign language things and use body language, and it's so easy to get around in common just because people are the same.
Yeah.
And then the travel for me is like, there are all of these beautiful little novel things. I love going to supermarkets. But that stuff is like beautiful, in the flow type things that don't necessarily like get me out of bed. I think also I've just been doing it so much that it doesn't feel like it's a new thing.
Yeah. Where are you going to settle, do you know? Yeah. Yes. Will you be there in July? Yeah. Okay. I'm not, well, after the last couple of days, not 100% sure, but strong chance, hopefully, that I'm in Andorra and Barcelona in July. Yeah, Andorra Mountain Bike World Cup is on in July, and then Barcelona, because Barcelona. So, and then maybe just around down into Andalusia, and then maybe up into south of France, Montpellier, and these kind of area. Yeah. Can you guess? Uh, Probably both. It depends. If I take the road bike, then I will probably ride everywhere. If I take my mountain bike, then I may train between places and ride around those places. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. No way near that strong. Those guys are. Yeah, and I'm cooked. I mean, not that I'd ever. I think I'm confident in saying that I wouldn't be able to ever compete in the cross country mountain bike world champs just because genetic differences. 24-hour world champs, if I had, 12 months of very specific training for 24-hour world champs, I think I could compete in that. But the short course, those guys, like, I mean, to give you an idea, my FTP, my threshold power, the most amount of power that I can hold for an hour is about 270 watts. Tadej Pogacar, who's the multiple world Tour de France winner, his 270 watts would be zone one for like Sunday coffee weight. And he's like probably 15 kilos lighter than me as well. So it's FTP. Well, people reckon about 480, so it's probably twice as strong. It's not confirmed, probably because he's still competing, so they probably want to just keep that a little bit under wraps. But I'm guessing it's between 450 and 480. But I think it's more the idea that if he was out for a Sunday coffee ride, I could maybe keep up with him for an hour. That's the and he would do that for 8 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours, just cruising around. In fact, no, I couldn't keep up with him in it for an hour because, like I say, his weight, he's 15 kilos lighter than me. So even if he was riding 270 kilos, as soon as we got, 270 watts, as soon as we get to a hill, he'd just be gone. Yeah. And like, there's no amount of HGH or EPO or anything that would offset my genetics to get me to the point where he is. Yeah. Yeah. I could do all of the Class A drugs and train specifically for it and still not be as powerful as he is. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, people don't get it when people are running 15-second 100 meters and they're like, I reckon if I trained hard enough, I could be at the Olympics. It's like, I think you, I mean, no, I think you massively overestimate the difference between 15 seconds and 9.8 seconds. It's just like, yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah. It's, the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you know a little bit about something, your confidence levels are exponentially more than when you know a lot about something and you go, nah. Well, it's when you know a lot about something, you realize you actually know very little about it, which is ironic. Like I say, even for myself, like struggle with self-esteem, and I've kind of recently come to that realization. Like I struggle with self-confidence and with self-esteem issues. So when I'm teaching communication, I'm like, oh, am I qualified to teach this? And only in the last kind of 6 months have I think it's with Tough Yarns and that taking off. I think that's given me permission to go, no, actually I am qualified to teach this. Like I do. I know what I'm doing. But that took me a long time. Like I taught it for 10 years, wondering if I should be teaching it. And now it's like, okay, cool. So yeah, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, you too. Yeah. I mean, it would be, I couldn't help but laugh if it wasn't. I'm at the point now where you just go, okay. Yeah. Sweet. Love you, brother.